This is Kristin.
And I'm Steve of Steve the Bike Guy.
And you are listening to Cycling Together. Our first episode.
Our very first.
And
here we go.
Here we go. Our first episode. And it's the first day of the new year.
Yep.
So it seemed like a good time to kick this off. And we don't really do New Year's resolution. Have you ever done a New Year's resolution?
No, never.
We've been married a long time. I've never asked you that question.
No.
Yeah. I think when you have kids, it's like the new year is the school year. And January is like nothing.
No,
like
no, you're right.
September's when you start everything
things
new.
change. Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
no, the January 1st is just another day. Today's Thursday,
day
right?
off.
Or Wednesday? Yeah.
It's Wednesday. We are in the what day date hole right now because it's been a very long holiday. So we don't do New Year's resolutions, but we do ride planning. This is the time of year where we start looking ahead to the rest of the year. And so that's what we thought that's what our first episode is going to be about.
The ride calendar.
The ride calendar.
Yep, planning the year. And how a lot of times, in a couple weeks, it might be we have the year planned for the rides, essentially.
Which is kind of a bummer, I have to tell you.
It is.
Today at noon, Vermont Overland opened for registration, and it will sell out.
Yep.
And I actually saw one of the people that we follow say that he wants to register for it.
Right.
But he lost like $800 last year on ride registrations for rides he ultimately could not do.
Ah, yes.
Right?
Yep.
Because just life gets in the way.
And I know somebody who signs up for everything. Everything just because maybe I will do it. He obviously does not care about the lost money, but he just signs up for everything.
And there are like,
which
you can
crazy.
Transfer some will let you move it to the next year. Like there are, but I do think there is one of the reasons we end up thinking about it is because the registrations are already opening. Right. Like they're already opening. The alumni registrations are just opening. Like Mixtape is open for people who've already done it. Now, our biases on these we are New England based, and so we're mostly going to be talking about New England rides.
But this applies around the country.
And races are not off the table, but we're really talking about rides.
And some might be race rides where the people at the front are racing while everybody else is just riding. Right.
Exactly. But let's start to talk about like why group rides? Like what do you like about why do we even sign up for group rides versus there's plenty of places we could ride all by ourselves.
Right.
Or together. We
right.
Cycle together.
Right.
Like,
Why spend the money? Why just the process of doing a group ride?
And I'm just curious why you do it, like what you like about them.
Yep.
Versus, again, these are like things we've never really talked about. We just
it's true. Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. So for me, just to get us off, like I like group rides. It usually inspires us to try somewhere new, go somewhere new.
Right.
And usually gets me together with some friends that maybe I don't see for other reasons. And it also lets us ride together, but not. Like we can do a ride and we may ride the ride together, or I might be like, I'll meet you at the end.
Right. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons I like group rides.
Yeah. Definitely going someplace new that you would otherwise not ride is on my list. Mm-hmm. There's the seeing other people and being seen by other people.
There is that we are a bike shop. There is a marketing component.
There is a marketing component to us.
We can be honest about that.
It's funny because there are people out there that you would consider friends that you might only see once or twice a year at these rides.
That's true.
And you can't even recall when you met some of these people or when you had a lengthy conversation, but you are all chummy with each other, and it's just great. And all of a sudden you do these same rides over and over, and suddenly they're like, oh yeah, my friend, this person, that friend, but that's all you've really ever had an interaction with them.
I commented on a woman's post and one other friend who's like completely in a different part of the world, I would say, like in different, you have your friend group, your bike friend group, and he was like, how do you know her? And I was like, oh, I know her because I was on Team Betty. How do you know her? And he's like, I met them at the Hincappy ride.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and so, yeah, you have these like shared, I would
Yes,
say there's like
you have
the
these-
Venn diagram.
Yes, the Venn diagram of
There's
those
the Venn
riders.
diagram of the people I know, and then there's the like scribble where you're just like, I just know you for so many different places, but many of them are rides. And also, I'm often surprised, even at the biggest rides, like let's take the Pan Mass Challenge,
Yep.
which is a fundraiser for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It's thousands of riders. I am shocked by the number of friends I will run into on the ride.
On the
that
ride.
Like just at a rest stop.
On the bike.
Yeah,
during
on
the
the
ride.
bike during the ride. You roll in and you're like, oh my gosh, look who it is.
Right.
So you have that. There's also that just shared experience of doing something together, especially if it's like a fundraising type thing. There's that power of the, shared experience.
There is. And I get, and then you also, for me, you get riding scenarios which you don't otherwise. And just like pace lines.
Yes.
Certain, pace lines with certain people you've never ridden with before, and you just something just comes together, and all of a sudden there's 6 people all at the same pace, all just working together, right? And and everything's clicking.
Yeah.
It's just that,
and you get that insider's perspective on, like, you can look up routes on Ride with GPS, you can look at heat maps, you can try to like at a new place, or you can go on one of these rides and locals have planned it. So you're going to be on the trails and the roads that maybe you as a visitor wouldn't necessarily find. Okay. So the big challenge is how to decide between rides you've done and you love.
Right.
And new rides, because it's awfully tempting to just be like, I know that is a fabulous ride. I'm going to do it year after year after year. Like one of our friends was like, I love Muddy Onion. I'm going to go do it every single year.
Right.
It's always a Saturday and it's always on my kid's birthday. But, like there's that tear between like, what am I not doing? Because,
and I mean, I guess we can say we are blessed with this overwhelming cycling calendar of options to choose from, especially in New England. I mean, when it comes to now gravel in New England, I mean, you can pretty much do an event every weekend if you want.
Yeah. Well, and we can add put mixed terrain in that.
Well,
so
terrain.
Gravel being dirt and mixed terrain being. Remember the first time I did a mixed terrain ride? It was with one of our neighboring shops, and I went out on my cyclocross bike and with my friend, and we got back, and you go, "How was it?" And I was like, riddle me this. What is mixed terrain?
No, what is gravel, you said?
No, I said, what's mixed terrain? Because it was a mixed terrain ride in the Sherburne area.
Right.
And you were like, well, it's a mix of all terrains. And I was like, then it was good.
Yeah, it's pretty much mountain biking on a drop barred bike.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of signing up for stuff without really having a good idea of what I've signed up for. And I would say that was one of them where I was like, oh, this is like mountain biking on my cyclocross bike before I was really comfortable with gravel or mixed terrain, which actually brings up the, like, when you're looking at a ride, I think there's like an equation in our head, right? Like how far to drive,
right? For
how many miles ridden,
right?
For how much it's going to cost us.
Well, as a naturally frugal person, this has kind of gotten to me over the years. And it used to be that these rides might be $30, $40, $50.
Yeah.
And now it seems like it's $80, $90, $100. Right. Per ride. So now, for me, it's like, well, like, let's look at the year and look at the budget dollars, and now, like, we want to go do certain rides, but other rides, you keep piling on different rides you want to do, and in your head you're like, yeah, that's just kind of going over your mental budget block. You're like, yeah, I can't justify that cost anymore this year.
When we were racing cyclocross, we had a friend who would he would get stuff from his local swap shop dump, and he would sell it on eBay he has a nice swap shop dump. And if he could pay for his whole season
Right.
that way,
Yes.
right, that was a success.
With junk that he found that he could sell on eBay.
Which was awesome.
And he would pay for his cyclocross season.
Yeah, because also, I mean, 30, 40, 50, and you're around here, great.
Yeah.
But when you get to like 80, 100 per person, because we do tend to do a lot of together, and then you are going to drive, like some of our favorites have been up in Kingdom Trails area, so that's a 4-hour
So there's
drive.
driving, there's fuel, there's then hotel costs.
Right.
So not many rides. Some rides would just have 1 overnight, but others have 2 overnights. You need to get there, say, the Friday night, so that you're there very early morning Saturday for the ride. And then if it's a really tough ride, you're exhausted, you just want to hang out, maybe go to the hot tub, you're going to go out to dinner with friends, and then you want to be there that night before you come home on Sunday.
This is where having the van has become nice, because we had that ride there's a Plymouth to Provincetown ride, right? And we slept in a parking lot in Plymouth so that we could get up first thing in the morning.
This Plymouth to Provincetown ride is the best value ride in existence, in my opinion. Here's something that costs under $60, and so you have an organized ride where they drive your stuff the 90 miles to the finish, where you get food along the route, and you have a ferry ride back to your start point.
Right, but in the defense of the ones that have gotten more expensive, right? It's a slightly supported ride, right? So they don't have to file with the different towns for the police. They don't have to the expenses
That's true.
really go
well,
up.
and it's also organized by.
I don't think
so. Here's a big difference.
It's like really a friend's ride.
It's a friend's ride.
It's a friend's ride, and we help pay to cover the expenses. The reality is we can't do every ride. We have a particular restriction, or at least you do. I don't, which is Saturdays, because the shop is open.
Right.
So there are a lot of great rides on Saturdays that we don't do because we're open.
Yeah, and I pick and choose my Saturday rides to do that I'm going to be close for.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like it's sour grapes on the cost going up. It's just that cost is a consideration.
And what
when we look
rides
at,
we're going to do.
Much, yeah, exactly. Now the other consideration is, especially with gravel, is the mileage to elevation. And you kind of have a formula that says,
I do,
at the very least says, this is hard, this is very hard, this is, Kristin's going to cry.
Right. And it depends on how you want to look at it. It's always exactly the same thing. It's 100 feet per mile, 1,000 feet per 10, which is usually how I consider it, 1,000 feet per 10, which is 100 per mile.
Do the math.
Right.
For me
so
on
if you
that
have,
one. Vermont Overland is 55 miles and 7,000 feet of climbing.
Right. So you're over the 1,000 per 10.
Got it.
Right. So that's a very, very difficult ride.
Which we know it is.
Right. And so, if you have a lot of the centuries around here might be in the 6,000 range. So you're only at 600 per 10. Okay. And that's hilly. It's a big climbing day, but it's not a leg breaker.
Right. There are a couple of factors for me that I know. We're looking at rides. There's the rides that I love the event. I'm not a fan of the ride.
Yep.
I'll put Rasputitsa in that one. Mm-hmm. Love the event. Mm-hmm. Love the organizers. They're on hold this year. Love everything about it. It's a little too early in the year for me. It's just really mucky and cold, and the weather can be really questionable. That's their appeal.
Thing. That's their thing.
That's their branding.
Yeah. Rasputitsa mud season.
Totally love it. So there's that. And then there is the, how much climbing do I want to do?
I mean, as cyclists, let's face it, we love punishing ourselves. So we a lot of us will go out and we'll do these very difficult rides, and you get to the end and you're exhausted and you're like, well, that was a tough day. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm coming back next year. Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you get your Strava wrap up at the end of the year, and you're like, look at all the amazing things I did. And yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
that's it's what we do.
It is
on a bike.
It's funny the number of times I have ridden now from Plymouth or Bourne to Provincetown, so up Cape Cod, that I wouldn't drive that because that sounds horrible.
Right.
But somehow riding it is hard, but not completely unreasonable.
Completely unreasonable. Yeah.
I don't know.
We've done events in bad weather that I've had an awesome time in, and we've had events in some bad weather that
you got hypothermia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that almost basically break you.
Yeah, and that's the challenge of riding together but not together. So we'll take that example. So we did Rasputitsa one year, and you went off ahead.
Yep.
As you did. That was the plan. And it was raining / snowing. And as we went up, the temperature dropped from a balmy 40.
35.
It was above the freezing mark to
Right.
below. It was
Right.
a 10-degree drop. This is what I remember to be true. Everything was wet.
Yep.
I was completely numb. I got to the top of a thing and I was like, I think I'm going to call this. And you were standing there
Right.
at the top.
Yeah,
like
but there
a
is no calling it
popsicle.
there, right? There's nobody to bring you back. There's no support. There's no.
It's like
sag
semi-supported.
wagon.
There was like groups that.
I mean, there was a rest stop there, if you will, with food, but there was nobody there that could.
No, that's where I was going to stop and say, I'm going to need some help. I can't finish this.
Oh, okay.
Like I had I thought in my head, but then
I
I
see.
found you
Right.
at the top.
Right.
And what was going through your head that made you stop at that point?
Well, I stopped, probably filled a bottle or grabbed food, and then I was like, this is brutally bad out here. Like, how is you, just thinking about you must be just in bad shape or freezing.
Yeah.
Right? So I was, and I didn't know where you were, and because we're in the middle of nowhere, there's no cell phone signal, so I could not track you, I could not call you, I could not like do anything but just wait for you and to see how you were.
Yeah. But you were not dressed.
No, but
properly.
in the process of standing there for 40 minutes, soaking wet in 25 degrees, that's what hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will be forever grateful to the organizers who brought they drove past in a pickup truck with too many people already in it and said, "Is he okay?" I said, "He is not okay." And so they loaded you in like a log.
Yep.
That's a good story to just explain why I'm kind of over the unsupported rides. There's a type of, particularly I think in gravel. I don't think I see it as much in other group rides we've done, but in gravel that tends to be, and maybe it's just because they're in the mountains. There's no cell signal. There's no, but the idea of just kind of flinging myself into the wilderness without any cell signal. Especially
and no sag wagon, nothing, nobody to pick you up.
I mean, they tell you, let's be clear, you know what you're signing up for.
Right.
It says it is an unsupported ride. And we even organize some unsupported rides. We have what we call our hallowed road, which is we set up the course, but it's on you. You have a good time. Good luck.
Right.
But that's in suburban Massachusetts.
Right.
Close to facilities versus in the woods, especially during the shoulder season, the spring, April.
Right. April's tough, right? April's tough. Now, the thing that gets me are the rides that cost a lot, cost as much as any other ride, but then the rest stops. To me, if I'm paying $90 for a ride, then the rest stops that they have organized should have supplies. But I have been on rides where they have like nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Right? One where they even like ran out of water. All they had was water, and then they ran out of that for half the riders. So,
and if it's anything, you need water,
right?
That's please, some salt packets.
So that's just not like that's a kind of ride that I just won't go back to. I mean, I like if I'm paying $90, I expect nutrition at the stops.
What's your favorite snack you've gotten on any supported ride?
That is easy. That is on Jeremy Power's Grand Fundo ride.
Okay.
And so his mother makes these peanut butter, fluff, and blueberry sandwiches. And bacon.
I was going to say, I thought there was bacon involved.
That bacon's an optional one, and half and half.
I knew the answer.
That is just a phenomenal sandwich. It's one of my favorites.
That is the ride also where I discovered the power of pickles.
Oh.
I had never, I'm not a big pickle person, but they had on that first Gran Fondo that I did, where someone literally, we were going up with King's Highway.
It was called King's Highway. It's not on the current route right now, but I think it was called King's Highway.
Highway.
That was actually a paved section.
I rode by and I was like, someone threw up, right? Like they had, and I had said that to someone at a restaurant. I was like, someone threw up. And he goes, that was me. I didn't even stop. Like he just, speaking of pushing yourself.
Yeah,
but
that was 18% grade or something.
They had a big, 18% grade. When my Garmin screen goes to what I call ox blood red.
Right.
But they had a big vat of just pickle spears at this ride. And I mean, it was, in hindsight, probably a little gross that we were just pulled out a pickle spear. But, it was the best.
Well, that's pickles are the best. Yeah.
It was the best. I will admit, I had no idea that ride. That was a great one. I really enjoyed it.
That's a great
snacks,
ride. Mm-hmm.
Good, and it benefits
excellent rest stop food.
Excellent rest stop.
Excellent
food.
after party food.
Yeah.
Excellent. They even have breakfast before, which is unusual, and it's just what a great ride.
Right. Which I can't really do breakfast before. I'm so sensitive. Like it's funny we talk about all of the foods at the rest stops. I actually rarely eat the food at the rest stops because I'm so sensitive, and so I know what works for me.
And I don't want to carry all the food on me, so I will carry a few gels and another snack or something, but I don't want to be weighed down by all that food, which is why if I'm spending $90 on a ride,
right.
I want the rest stops stocked with food.
Yeah, see, I'm saying I do carry most of what I'm going to eat because I don't trust, like I have dairy issues and I have, so it's just interesting. And it must be impossible for race organizers too, or ride organizers to figure that out, which brings us to how we find our rides, because that can feel a little overwhelming. First stop.
Bike Reg. BikeReg.com. That has almost any event in the country, mountain bike, gravel, or road. And anything else in between, they're going to, an event organizer is going to list there. That's where you would sign up for it. That's where you would have the event details or the links to the event details.
Yeah.
But not every organizer's, puts it on there at the same time. So an event this coming July might not be on Bike Reg yet. So you really have to constantly look on Bike Reg.
You can also, if it's a past event, like if it's a repeated event.
Correct.
It may have been there from the year before. And that can at least give you an idea of when it's going to be. Because they do tend to be around the same weekend, right? So let's say you were interested in Farmer's Daughter.
Mm-hmm. That's a gravel ride in New York.
That's a gravel ride in New York. Oh, yes, son. It's on my list.
Yep.
It's this year. It's May 18th.
Yep, that's always in May. Yep.
Started, but that, you could look back.
Right.
To last year and be like, oh, this one looks interesting, and
there's independent websites as well that will list gravel events, especially, and mountain bike events. So those are places you kind of have to search around for those a little bit. There are some websites coming together for sort of gravel-oriented information and routes and so forth, and those will list events. Yeah. The other place is festivals. So festivals a lot of times will not be on Bike Reg. Some will be on there. That's their method of signing up for the whole event. But festivals, which applies mostly to mountain bikes, I'd say. Right. But they'll, of course, if you go to a mountain bike festival, they're going to have group rides all day long, multiples.
I love a good mountain bike festival.
Yeah, last year we went to Flow Fest.
Yeah.
Flow State.
Flow State.
That was in Gutney, Vermont, right?
Yep. And we used to go to Nemba Fest, and I remember one of our friends saying, do you want to, we should ride together. And I was like, dude, I can ride with you at home and I adore you and I want to do that. But I just want to ride with women. Like I was like,
Right.
this is the only time, especially with mountain biking, cycling in general is pretty, male oriented. So I could just join women's
rides
ride after women's rides. And it was really awesome. And then there was that one, sometimes it'll surprise you. Like when we went to Stowe several years ago we were there for my parents' anniversary.
That's right. And we took the kids and we just went up there to make a weekend out of it.
Yep. Brought our bikes because we always do.
And we get up there and it was the 3B. It was like the beers, beats and brews, beats and bikes.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to look that up. So they have this weekend festival.
B3, Bikes, Brews, and Beats.
Bikes, Brews, and Beats. So mountain bike rides all weekend long and bands playing. And, of course, they have lots of breweries and so forth going on there. So
sadly, the site I'm looking at, it says the next one will be June 29th, 2018. So I don't know if that's still going on.
Huh.
But...
Yeah, so maybe that's not going on
there are a
anymore.
lot of festivals like that. There's also fundraising rides that aren't necessarily going to end up on.
Correct. Right.
Like the Alzheimer's ride.
Yeah, the brain tumor ride. Yeah, mini, I should say. Everything compared to the PMC is a mini cancer ride, but lots of different cancer fundraising rides.
Yep. Yeah, and we get a ton of stuff at the shop. We get a lot of unsolicited packages of flyers.
We do. So
about different rides, and we will put them up.
Yeah, but mainly fundraising rides.
Yes.
So a great place to find out about fundraising rides is a local shop because they'll usually have a bulletin.
So what we do is at the beginning of the year I start just a list of all the. Sometimes I've used Pinterest for this because why not? And I go through I go through Bike Reg and I just write down dates and race names and links, and at some point we have to coordinate.
So what is we talked about the top rides you want to do?
So I started putting my list together. Okay. Well, first of all, I would love to do Farmer's Daughter, which is
that's
in
been
New
on my
York.
list for a while too. We've never done that.
I think that's the weekend our son graduates from college this year.
Okay, so that's out.
Right. I just read about one called not Velo Studio. That was what you used to be called. Velo Stowe.
Velo Stowe in Stowe,
Vermont.
Okay.
Yep. It's a fundraiser. It's by, what was that hitchhiker mountain bike shop that we stopped by? Remember? Mm-hmm. They organize it. And, it benefits some local organizations, but it's kind of short, like mileage wise, the number of miles to drive.
Right. Yep. See, so you're balancing that
you're
balancing
gonna have
act
a whole
of
weekend
right.
to. I really liked Raid Rockingham last year. So Raid Rockingham is a group that's.
Yeah, that is a professional event organizer who does a bunch of these. And so I had a really great time at Raid Rockingham last year. I could do that again.
Yeah, that had more dirt than I think we thought it was going to.
I had done it. That was my second time, and the previous year was, it was probably like 2016 was the first time I did it, right?
Yeah.
So, this did seem like it had more off-road than the first year, but that could just be perception.
Night 5. It's a group called Gravel, GRVL Cycling. So they do several. They also have a really cool thing called the Gravel XX Project, which is dedicated to getting more women to do their gravel events, which is awesome. So I like to support that.
Okay.
So that's one on my list.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, I am signed up for the Rift this year.
Oh, is that all?
So the Rift is a gravel ride in Iceland. That was a bucket list thing, and then a couple of people I know signed up for it, and that snowballed into there must be at least 15 people I know now signed up for it. So, so that's on the list.
That is a huge one, and we do.
That's in July.
We do solo rides. There are times where that is not one I'm interested in.
Right, and I don't often do these certain far travel
No, you've been
big
to
things.
Iceland. When did you guys go to Iceland before?
We did do an Iceland trip in 2018.
Okay.
For mountain biking.
Okay.
So this is a gravel event. Okay. One day gravel event.
All right.
What else is on my list?
What about D2R2? Tell me about D2R2 because I have not done it. You have.
D2R2. Okay. So
right?
No, I have not.
Oh, you haven't? That's been on your list.
This is
on my list. We always used to go on vacation.
We used to always go on vacation that weekend. Okay. And then a couple years ago during COVID, our friend Jeff organized a small group ride to basically do the route. So there were 6 of us, I believe, on that. And it was like a spectacular route in Western Mass. So
wait, it's in Western Mass?
Yeah.
I thought it was in Vermont.
No, Western Mass. Well, you ride into Vermont, but so that is a fundraising ride technically for the land group out there. It's basically to preserve open space. And it is expensive, and it always somewhat hits my like, I've spent too much on rides already this year.
Oh, because the time of the year, because it's like August.
Right. And so I hit this mental block about the spending of that much money at that time of year for whatever reason. But that's only been the couple years that I've been available to do it. And then just haven't. So, but that, we should do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That should be on our list.
I do have one complaint for ride organizers, which is figure out where your stuff is. Because I just went to a D2R2's site and it was like, save the date, August 19th, 2023. And I was like, oh no, is it gone? No, there's a different page that says it is August 23rd, 2025.
Ah, so just a remnant in there
and
of the old 2023
registration
date.
already opened.
And registration already opened.
Already sold out.
Well, that gets to now, and some of these rides, you have to be at your computer ready to register the minute it opens because it's going to be closed within an hour or a day.
You said we don't often register right before. We often don't register right before because a lot of the ones have been sold out for months. Right? But you can do for some of that. I don't know about D2R2. You can do wait lists.
Has plenty of time.
Yeah, you can do wait list, which is what my cousin did for Vermont Overland last year, and then he ended up off the wait list. And it's like, do you know they just charge your credit card and and put you in the ride?
Right.
Yes, that's what wait list is. So do you think that one's a possibility?
What, D2R2?
For us.
Yeah, I think we should seriously look at that this year.
That wouldn't make me cry.
Yeah. No. Like, I mean, they offer a lot of different routes.
Yep.
Including some really long days in the saddle. But I wouldn't necessarily go for that.
Right.
That's not going to be a good day.
D2R2 means Deerfield Dirt Road
Randonneur. Yep.
What?
Oh, randonnée. Yeah.
Randonnée.
Yeah.
What does randonnée mean?
All about.
Oh. No, I don't know. That's why I asked. So my dad used to say to me, I would go, and he'd say,
travel about.
No, I don't know. All right. Okay, so D2R2 is one on my list that I'd like to look at. We just have to look at the dates for when our children go, or actually just our daughter goes back to college.
Right.
PMC Unpaved.
PMC Unpaved.
So PMC Unpaved is a gravel ride raising money for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute.
Right.
That's in
August. Oh, no, September.
That's in September.
Yeah, they've been
Western
flip-flopping
Mass.
between September and October.
Yes, that is, I will say, the best supported gravel ride I've ever done. Any others on your list? What's a ride? Well, you're doing the Rift, so you're already doing
I know
ride.
that pretty much, right?
The ride I would love to do, and I don't think we can do it this year either, is the 5 Boroughs ride.
Oh, that's been on your list for a while.
That has been on my list for a while. I used to live there.
Right.
I just think the idea of riding closed
roads in there.
around. Yep. I'm sure it's expensive because you can't close roads in New York City and not pay a pretty penny. But I just think that would be a just urban adventure. That's definitely high on my. Okay, every time it comes up, I go, All
right. Well, we'll keep that on the top of our list of things every year to take a look at. Okay, so one more event type of situation, which is not a ride, not necessarily an event for people, but that is professional races.
Oh, professional. Us not
right.
Not signing up for races, but us going to watch people who know what they're doing.
Right. So last year we went to the Mountain Bike World Cup race in Lake Placid. It was the first year in Lake Placid. It's going to be there the next 2 years. That last year it coincided with on PMC Unpaved. So we had to leave PMC early at about 3 p.m. after the ride. Drive to Lake Placid so that we could get to our campsite and see what we were doing to get there. And then the race, and then we caught the final race on that Sunday. But there were races Friday and Saturday that we had to miss.
Yeah.
And then they're moving that event 1 week, but PMC moved their event 1 week, so they coincide the same time. So this year we would love to go back to Lake Placid, but we're just not going to this year. But there's a lot of riding at these events. You're gonna a lot of riders there. You're gonna enjoy yourself riding the trails. You can ride the race course the next day. And it's such a small world. Remember, we were at the campground and we were talking to another couple, and it turned out they were from, I don't even remember where they were from, but our daughter and their daughter had raced cyclocross together. Oh, that's right. And we found pictures of that.
I actually had a picture of her, of their daughter.
Yep.
I was like, well, I only have a couple of pictures from Connecticut when the cyclocross championships. That's why, because it was the U.S. championship, so people would have come from
And
far.
she was racing, right? She
was racing.
U23.
Yeah, she was still racing. Yeah. All right. Well, I think is that it?
Yeah.
That's it for episode 1.
I think so.
I think so too. Cycling Together with Kristin and Steve is a production of Steve the Bike Guy and Sundin Marketing. To learn more, including how to submit a comment, question, or topic suggestion, you can visit CyclingTogether.Bike. Yes, .bike is a real domain. And if you liked the show, this first episode,
very first episode,
like it, share it, leave a comment. We'd love to know what you'd like to have us cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're keeping the topics, rolling as we jot them down and figure out what we're going to talk about.
Figure this out.
Yeah, but lots and lots to cover.
Good job.